Unlike the sun, the moon goes through a cycle of different forms. Sometimes looks like a silver blade, sometimes looks like a protector, but sometimes looks like a bow. This is the moon. It seems not to have a permanent shape. But why all this? The truth is, the moon has a permanent shape. It's not like the way we see it most of the time. The moon is almost round. Okay. The moon gives us light during night hours, but we need to know the moon doesn't generate its own light. It reflects the sunlight and light us on Earth when it is dark. So, that way, we enjoy the moonlight. Always half the moon's surface gets sunlight except during lunar eclipses. But the position of the moon in relation to the Earth determines the amount of the moon's shining surface we can see. Mind you, always the moon goes around the Earth. So, the moon is in different positions in different days. This leads to the different shapes of the moon in a repeated cycle of about 29 days. These are the phases of the moon. The moon has got 8 phases in a lunar month. I insist here, a lunar month, a month related to a lunar calendar. The first phase is the new moon. This is the start of the cycle. It happens when the moon is in the middle of the sun and the earth. The solar eclipse may occur only if all the 3 bodies are in the same plane. So the moon being in the middle of the sun and the earth alone doesn't guarantee the solar eclipse. On this day, the moon is not seen by naked eyes. It rises around sunrise and sets around sunset. The moon goes on orbiting the earth eastwards. We start to see a little shining edge of the moon. This is the second phase known as waxing crescent moon. In this phase, the moon rises around 9 a.m. and sets around 9 p.m. And someone somewhere on the earth in evening can see the little shining edge of the moon, looking like a sickle blade. The sunlight reflected from the earth gives the dark areas of the moon a fainting glow. The third phase is first quarter moon or half moon. In this phase, the sun, the earth, and the moon forms almost the right angle. The moon has gone almost 1/4 of the way around the earth. It rises around the midday and sets around the midnight. We can see half of a shining side of the moon, and the moon looks like a semicircle. The fourth phase is waxing gibbous moon. This is the phase in which the moon grows bigger than a semicircle but not a complete cycle. In this phase, the moon rises around 3 p.m. and sets around 3 a.m. The moon keeps on growing to the full moon, so the fifth phase is full moon. This is the middle of the moon's journey around the earth. It happens when the earth is in the middle of the sun and the moon. The lunar eclipse may occur only if these 3 bodies are in the same plane. Again, the earth being in the middle of the sun and the moon alone doesn't guarantee lunar eclipse. On this day, the moon rises around sunset and sets around sunrise. The shining side of the moon is completely seen from the earth. The moon is the perfect shining ball in the sky, the full moon. This is the highest point of the moon's growth. Then the moon starts shrinking down. The sixth phase is waning gibbous moon. This is the phase in which the moon starts to shrink down. The moon is still bigger than the same cycle, but not a perfect cycle. In this phase, the moon rises around 9 p.m. and sets around 9 a.m. The seventh phase is the third quarter moon or half moon. This is the half moon again. The moon looks like a semicircle again. In this phase, the moon rises around midnight and sets around midday. And last but not least, the waning crescent moon. When the moon is few days away from the new moon, becomes smaller and smaller. We see again the little shining edge of the moon. This is the last phase of the moon. In this phase, the moon rises around 3 a.m. and sets around 3 p.m. These different shapes of the moon have influenced civilizations for thousands of years.